Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some post-ban list Mitsurugi Ryzeal. So, the combo lines are mostly still the same, so I'll link my previous combo guide in the description below. However, I'm still going to start off with a combo line for this particular video, because in my previous combo guide, I did not show off a line that uses Divine Golden Dragon Dragulxion. So, I want to start this video off with that combo line here. I'll show you how to use this in order to set up an additional negate as well as your Ryzeal plays when you start with Mitsurugi. So we're going to start with the Habakiri effect, and we're going to summon the Saji from our deck, and then tribute it. This will allow us to activate Saji's effect in order to add the ritual from deck to hand. This is very similar to pretty much every other Mitsurugi engine line. If you've played any amount of Mitsurugi, or even against it really, you're going to be familiar with this. But we're going to activate the ritual, use the second effect in order to summon the Habakiri from hand, using Kusanagi and Night Sword Serpent from our deck. Alright, let's summon that right over here. And then we get to activate both the effects of Kusanagi and Night Sword Serpent. We're going to go Chain Link 1 Kusanagi in order to return the ritual from graveyard to hand, and then Chain Link 2 Night Sword Serpent. As always, you want to do it in this order to make sure that you're playing around a Ghost spell. Alright, we can summon Night Sword Serpent, and then we can use Kusanagi's effect to return the ritual from grave to hand, which will subsequently activate. Let's special summon Murakumo from our deck, tributing the Habakiri that is on our field. And, of course, this will trigger the graveyard effect of the Habakiri. We'll add a Mitsurugi Prayers from deck to hand. And then we can special summon. Now, let's activate Mitsurugi Prayers. We are going to tribute a monster, yes. We're going to tribute the Murakumo. And we're going to do both effects. Now, here I opened Aramasa, but if I did not open it, I would add it from deck to hand right now. I'll add an extra copy of Habakiri instead, but just know that if Aramasa was in your deck, that's where you'd want to add it. And then we're going to revive one of our 2 level 4 monsters. In this case, I'll just get Saji, because of course Murakumo will revive off its own effect, and we can add another copy of Prayers from deck to hand. Okay, so now at this point, we've set up our 2 level 8 bodies on the board. So let's summon our Divine Golden Dragon here using those 2 level 8s. And now, once it's XC summoned, or rather special summoned from the extra deck, we can add a Galaxy or Tachyon card from deck to hand, which does include 7th Tachyon. You can already see how this is very nicely setting up our plays for the Ryzeal stuff. But that's not all. We can then further activate the effect of our Dragulxion, discarding, or detaching rather, 2 materials. And now, we can summon Hope Harbinger on top. Alright, now we do still have 2 level 4 monsters on our field, so let's make Ryzeal Duo Drive. And we can activate in order to add a couple of those cards from our deck to our hand. Now, we can actually detach from the Hope Harbinger, and that's actually not a bad idea, because in order to negate spell cards, you don't have to detach materials. Rather, you negate the spell, and then it attaches to the Hope Harbinger. So we can take one of the materials off of here, and then take the other one off of Duo Drive. Then, when we get the Ryzeal Cross set up, we can have a material on the field attached to a Ryzeal card. But the cards we actually want to add from deck to hand are going to be Sword Ryzeal, and I'm actually going to get Star Ryzeal. And you'll see what I'm up to here in a second. But for now, I'm going to use my normal summon on Aramasa, and then we can activate in order to add one of our remaining copies of Habakiri from deck to hand. But moreover, I'm going to make IP Masquerena using Aramasa and Duo Drive, because we have not yet locked ourselves into any rank 4s. However, once we start special summoning, then we're going to be locking ourselves. So we're going to special summon the Sword Ryzeal. We can activate in order to add either Ice or X Ryzeal from deck to hand. Let's grab X here. We can then special summon X Ryzeal, let's send Aggregator. We won't be able to search off the X Ryzeal because we have level or rank 4 monsters in play, but we're all set up in order to be able to go into our next rank 4, which in our case is actually going to be Gallant Granite. Alright, now let's go for Gallant Granite's effect. We're going to add a rock monster from deck to hand. That is going to be our Nibiru. Now we can go special summon Star Ryzeal, detaching from Gallant Granite in order to do so. This will of course let us activate the Star Ryzeal effect, setting the cross, which we can then flip up. And let's go 7th Tachyon, showing number 104. We can then add Ice Ryzeal from deck to hand. And we'll just return one of our extra Habakiris. Alright, let's special summon the Ice Ryzeal by sending that Gallant Granite. We don't need that anymore. And from here, we can make our Detonator. Which then Detonator can activate and attach the Aggregator that's in our graveyard. Finally, we can end off with the Ryzeal Cross effect, putting back Duo Drive, as well as one of our other Ryzeal cards here. And then I'll get you an extra draw along the way, which ended up being our Habakiri anyway. But from there, set prayers, and there you go. That's how you can set up the Hope Harbinger to add a spell negate to your Mitsurugi Ryzeal end board. This end board still has IP, which gives you multiple options. You can either make SP Little Knight for a banish, or Dynamundo in order to have another way to revive the Murakumo from your graveyard. I say another because we are also setting up Mitsurugi Prayers with this combo line, which will revive the Murakumo to board wipe as well as get the negate. This of course doesn't also leave out the Detonator pops, the Ryzeal cross negate, as well as the Nibiru that we searched along the way. I believe that's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 7, 8 points of disruption there. So yeah, like I said, I hadn't shown off the line with the Dragulxion, so I wanted to make sure that we demonstrated that on the channel. So now that I've shown that, let me show you some gameplay with this build. Okay, our first opponent's going to be on Evil Eye here, but to be honest, it really doesn't matter what they're playing because that's not really going to come up. This game is mostly going to demonstrate just how well a deck like Mitsurugi Ryzeal can push through hand traps. Even in a hand where we don't have that many starters here, just the one Habakiri. Now, they're going to fire off a Maxi, and we thankfully have the Ash Blossom to counter that. So, minigame is done and out of the way, and we can get on to actually playing some Yu-Gi-Oh! Here. Alright, so Habakiri effect's going to resolve, Special Saji, and Tribute. Saji F will add the Ritual. Was a little afraid of Droll there, but even if we'd gotten hit with the Droll in Lockbird, we'd still be able to set up Murakumo, plus still have, multiple bodies on our board. So, even though Droll is still really good against Mitsurugi, honestly, there are a lot of hands like this one where it's not a game ender by any means. We're going to summon back the Night Sword Serpent, add the Ritual. Ritual F will activate that to tribute the Habakiri, and then from there, we can go into our Murakumo. Alright, Habakiri effect activates, and here is that Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. So as mentioned, we do chain block earlier in the combo line against the Ghost Bell. However, Ghost Bell is still quite good against Mitsurugi for pretty much this exact interaction, right? Now, not only does that stop the Habakiri, but also it will stop the search as well. I go to use the Murakumo effect, but they're going to use an Effect Veiler, which definitely makes sense. Effect Veiler is probably the worst of their 3 cards in the hand, because they can't use it on their turn, so they figured they might as well just get it off during my turn. Haven't used my normal summons yet, though, so we can normal summon Fulos and go for Duo Drive to try to finish out our Ryzeal line, but the opponent's actually got an Imperm in their hand, so we are definitely going to not be able to do that. However, what I can still do here is link off the Duo Drive and the Murakumo in order to still summon Dynamundo. And although it doesn't come up a lot, this is the exact kind of situation that makes playing Dynamundo in the extra deck really good, because my opponent's only got 1 card in hand, about to be 2 going into their turn. We have the Fua and the Lancia in hand. And so when they summon their first normal summon rather, their first Evil Eye monster, I'm chaining Dynamundo. Now, at this point, I would have no cards on my hand or field, so I can throw in the Fualos here and Lancia, because why not? This would do multiple things. Not only do I get to resolve my Fualos, but now I revive Murakumo from the graveyard to destroy their Evil Eye card and have a negate against their last card in hand. So yeah, as you can see, even if things go really far south, even if you only open 1 starter and your opponent has multiple hand traps to push through it, the Mitsurugi engine, especially when paired with Ryzeal, is just so unbelievably consistent that it can just push through multiple hand traps even on a hand that looks like it can only maybe play through 1. But yeah, even if things don't go out as well as the combo line I showed at the beginning, duels honestly are still relatively easy when you're playing a deck this strong. Let's show off some more gameplay of us playing through disruptions. I don't often show like short 1-turn replays, but I'll throw one in here. This is against Maliss. I'm going first again, but again, more than that, it's going to be me pushing through hand traps and still having plays. Now here we're going to go draw phase Mitsurugi prayers. This is something that I still see a bunch of Mitsurugi players online are not doing, so I wanted to also go ahead and take some time to explain this. If you open prayers, then it's not a bad idea to throw it out during the draw phase, and if you've got something like Aramasa in hand, all the better, you contribute it. Because this will let you get multiple searches during the draw phase. Remember that Droll and Lockbird can only stop searches outside of the draw phase, so even though it's not like your draw for a turn, you can still search cards during the draw phase and be safe from the Droll and Lockbird. Now here they're going to have an impulse, which will actually negate my Mitsurugi prayers. However, it won't negate the Aramasa search. Not that I really need it, I already have Habakiri in hand, so I decided to just grab a Murakumo, just so I could get it on the board a little bit sooner. That was a little bit risky. I honestly probably should have just grabbed Saji there and then normal summoned it. But, I don't know, I guess I'm as susceptible to negates pretty much either way. But yeah, Ritual is going to send the Night Sword Serpent and Kusanagi. We're going to summon out the Murakumo. Those effects are going to go off, as usual. They are going to end up using Magnum Hut. Definitely way too early. You definitely, if you're playing against Mitsurugi and you've got a Bystial in hand, Bystials are great against Mitsurugi, but you want to use them as they're trying to revive out of the graveyard. They definitely threw out their Magnum Hut too early here. I'm going to use Murakumo's effect to make them discard as a result of doing that. They discarded Chessy Cat, which again shows they're on Maliss. Night Sword Serpent is summoned. Kusanagi adds Ritual. They can search at the end phase, that's fine. We're going to Ritual Tribute the Murakumo to summon the Habakiri from deck. Now Murakumo effect activates. I'm going to add another copy of Prayers and then summon. And this kind of situation is actually why it is a good idea to play Dragulxion. This card is very optional. That's why I didn't show it during my first initial combo guide, which again, if you want to see combos without this card, that'll be linked in the description below. But this kind of situation is why it is good to play it, because there are some times when you're playing Mitsurugi Ryzeal where you get disrupted in such a way where you don't get 2 level 4 monsters on board. Like here, I was never really able to get the Murakumo tribute, so I didn't get the extra search for the normal summon, you know, which I could have done. Would normally be Aramasa, but I actually started with that in my hand. So, but here, because we have 2 level 8s in the Dragulxion in our extra deck, we can activate, or we can overlay in order to go into 7th Tachyon and then make Ryzeal plays from there. But they're going to concede before it comes to that. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next duel, which will be much more back and forth. Okay, our final game here is going to be a 7-turn, and I believe it is a going second game. 7-turn going second game against Maliss. Okay, yep, it is going second. Yeah, so I will say, you know, even though the ban list really did hurt Maliss and Ryzeal quite a bit, I think the Ryzeal versus Maliss matchup is still going to be a pretty common one. Here, our opponent actually didn't really have any plays. They just passed. So I'm going to go for the 7th Tachyon and then Ice Ryzeal, putting back Night Sword Serpent. They're going to throw out a Droll and Lockbird, so I decided to triple tack and see what they had going. Alright, they've got Impulse, Imperm, and 2 Bestial monsters, which is a very interesting scenario to find myself in, because I have Ice Ryzeal and no other extenders in hand, meaning regardless of if I put back Impulse or Imperm, the Ice Ryzeal is going to get stopped. I decided to put back Imperm, and I'll just make them use Impulse now. No sense in trying to play around it if I don't have an alternate play, right? Now I know their last 2 cards in hand are Bestial monsters, and I have both Maxi and Lancia. So I'm not too scared knowing that I'm up against, or I'm assuming I'm up against Maliss because I see Impulse and Bestial cards. That would only make sense. And sure enough, here's Allure of Darkness. Now, I did not chain Lancia here, and the reason why, you've probably seen this interaction yourself, but just because you chain Lancia to Allure of Darkness, that does not mean that they have to send their whole hand to the graveyard. They can still just show the Dark Monster and get to keep their hand. So I figured no sense in using Lancia now. Let's wait and see what they banished. They banished a Maliss March Hare. Now, when they go to normal summon it, I can chain Maxi, and that'll get them to end their turn. The idea being, of course, that they would link off the March Hare for something like Link Decoder or Link Garibo, then try to summon out a Bestial monster. So, ideally for me, they would have gone for it. They would have tried to link summon, I would have drawn one, and then when they would have activated Bestial, I could have linked. But no such luck here. We top deck Night Sword Serpent again, so I'm just going to normal summon it and go for the Ryzeal Duo Drive. But unfortunately, one of their last cards they drew off the Allure was exactly Ash Blossom, meaning that I cannot go into my full combo and pop off like I wanted to here. Now, you'll notice I went straight for end phase. I didn't battle. My reasoning for this is that if I battled into March Hare, they would be able to activate a Bestial effect to summon and then also add March Hare back to hand. Lancia can only be used during the opponent's turn, so Lancia would not have been able to stop the Bestial. So I decided to just fire off Lancia during the draw phase and try to play around and avoid as many of the Bestial / Maliss plays as I could. Now, granted, they can still summon Druiswarm off of the Lancia, which is a pretty big bummer for me, because it means they can get rid of the Druiswarm either by linking or crashing, and then get rid of my Duo Drive. So they're going to make Almirage and then link Almirage plus Druiswarm into SP Little Knight. And then they're going to use Druiswarm effect in order to get rid of the Duo Drive and then battle directly with the Little Knight. So now I'm in a pretty bad spot. They've got Little Knight, a Bestial, and an unknown card. I've got Droll and I'm top decking. I find an Imperm, which is actually extra bad because even if they do have something I want to Imperm on the next turn, like a Dormouse, which you're about to find off Malice and Underground, they'd be able to dodge it with the SP Little Knight anyway. But even as I go to Imperm the Dormouse here, they're actually just going to let that resolve, because they can just link it off with the Little Knight and go into their next Malice link anyway. Now here they're going to go into the Red Ransom. Or no, not the Red Ransom, because they already have Underground. They're going to make White Binder here. From there, they can activate the White Binder effect, banishing a couple of my Ryzeal cards, but more importantly, their March Hare. March Hare effect is going to activate here, adding itself back to hand, and then from there, they can simply use the White Binder effect to set GWC from the deck. GWC can banish the White Binder here, allowing them to revive the Dormouse, and they get to draw a card off the White Binder, giving me a chance to Droll, but that's not really going to do a lot. Not in this situation. They're going to make Access Code Talker, and they still have that Bestial monster that's left in hand, meaning they can simply summon that, and then they'll have enough damage on board for lethal. So, yeah, despite knowing what was in their hand for most of the game, unfortunately we just did not get enough starters there in order to be able to push through what they had for us. So, anyway, let's go ahead and show off the deck here. Okay, so here is the list for Mitsurugi Ryzeal post-ban list, and as I clicked on Detonator here, it occurred to me that I didn't even really summon Detonator once during my play session testing this deck, and in spite of that, I was still able to rank up in Diamond rank, not even ever summoning Detonator, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, this is a post-ban list build. Again, even though the ban list is not in effect yet, I'm still testing stuff out. So we're on the 2 Droll, the 1 Called By, 1 Sword Ryzeal, and 1 X Ryzeal. But in spite of that, this list in particular still has 14 one-card starters, as well as 15 hand traps. And if you wanted more one-card starters, you could easily play more copies of 7th Tachyon. I slightly debated dropping Triple Tack for another 7th Tachyon, and there were a couple of games like that last Maliss game where I kind of struggled to have a lot of starters and extenders. But I gotta say, if I put in more 7th Tachyons, I might just add them like as a 41st card or 42nd if I decide to put in a full playset, because I really liked having the Triple Tack. It's really good to have more options against hand traps with the 1 Call By now being out of the deck. And Triple Tack is always a good card. I'm really just more playing it now because, again, that slot that was used by the 2nd Call By is now kind of freed up. So, but yeah, the main and extra, I think, are pretty locked in. I mean, the main deck, you could obviously adjust hand trap ratios however you want. But the extra deck, I'm pretty locked into this particular 15 cards. Like I said, I do end up really liking the extra option of having the Divine Golden Shadow Dragon here, so I think I'll be including this in my Mitsurugi Ryzeal decks moving forward. The IP Masquerena and even the SP Little Knight, I will say, are pretty optional, but I would definitely play Dynamundo, even if you're not going to end on IP and you don't play it. For games like the first one, right? There are just a lot of situations where you can play through a lot of hand traps, and as long as you can link off the Murakumo and something else, you can still have a lot of plays going into the few amount of cards your opponent will have left in hand. So, all in all, Mitsurugi Ryzeal is not nearly as affected by the ban list as Maliss was. Maliss is a lot more vulnerable to hand traps and has to change the way it plays because it lost Appaloosa. But Mitsurugi Ryzeal, just losing a few copies of Sword and X, really is just going to cut on the consistency more than anything else. The way that you play this deck is really not going to change much at all. So, hopefully you found this video helpful and you like the list here. Definitely feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always appreciate hearing from you. But that's going to go ahead and do it. So without further ado, let us move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.